off the top at 11, we continue to follow that breaking news in D.C. At least 2 people injured after a shooting in Northwest tonight.
Gunfire startled people out eating dinner at nearby restaurants and sent them running for their lives. Lindsay Watts is live in Northwest tonight. And Lindsay, the chief just spoke about tonight's crime, as did the mayor.
Rob, we just found out that one of those 2 people shot and injured tonight may be an innocent bystander. That is according to Police Chief Robert Conti. I want to give you a look at where this happened tonight here on 14th Street in the Logan Circle neighborhood.
Now, you guys remember this Logan Circle neighborhood. This is the neighborhood where the woman was shot with her kid, her 4-year-old son, the Glacier Glider woman, and her 4-year-old Glacier Glider son. When a gentleman, a good boy, a king, one of the city scooters, one of the scooters that you can rent and just, ride around, he just dropped it off and threw it in front of their yard. And they asked him politely to, put it on the kickstand, at least stand it up, so that, don't just throw it like in front of their yard on the ground. And he didn't like that, so he pulled out a gun and shot them. This is also the same neighborhood where Glacier Glider, Jeremy Black, the CEO, the executive director of the Peace Corps, the frigging Peace Corps, was killed. Now, I'm talking about all this happened in the last month and a half. This guy was killed walking to his car from dinner. Because this spot where this happened is just restaurants. Up and down restaurants and maybe stores, some different stores or whatnot, but mostly restaurants. And it's just teeming with what they would call gentrifiers. Just shops and bistros and cafes and little stores where you go in, get some nice little cute stuff, but it's just teeming with them. The executive director of the Peace Corps was out to dinner with his wife. They walk into the car and a bullet hits him because some saints were shooting at some other saints and they hit him. So now you got a third shooting in this neighborhood. And I'm telling you, this neighborhood historically never had shootings. Historically, this neighborhood. Now, the neighboring neighborhoods, Columbia Heights to the north, Shaw to the east. Yes, you have, it goes down. But this neighborhood historically has just been very, very, very safe. And now you're having all types of issues up there.
Rob, we just found out that one of those 2 people shot and injured tonight may be an innocent bystander. That is according to Police Chief Robert Conti. I want to give you a look at where this happened tonight here on 14th Street in the Logan Circle neighborhood. Investigation is still underway here. We can give you a closer look at where those shots were fired. You can see the evidence markers and shell casings here on the street. People who were out here having dinner report hearing more than a dozen shots. People running for cover, including one of the victims. So let's give you a look at this video that DC police just put out tonight. It shows the 2 suspects they are looking for, as well as their vehicle. We do have some still images for you as well. We know that both of the men who were shot tonight, they are expected to survive. This happening at 14th and Riggs Street, again, during the dinner rush. It was right around 8:20. Police closed down the road. Before they did, I was able to get down there to take a closer look, and I want to show you this video. So this is from across the street from where you saw those shell casings. I talked to some people who were out here having dinner. This is Mexicali restaurant. One couple eating outside says when they heard the shots, they looked up. They thought it was firecrackers in the street. They could see flashes hitting the road. Then they saw people running, including a man who was shot. Listen.
We saw people running either direction, and it was probably time to get out of there. We saw everyone rush into Mexico and followed right after them. And then, we saw a guy come in with a gunshot wound, and we knew immediately that this was real and it wasn't just firecrackers at that point.
Talk to me about when this man came in and he had been shot.
I think I'm still kind of in shock from everything. I think I saw him across the street. He was standing on the corner, he was caught in the middle of it. And I think I saw the post reaction. He had blood on his shirt. It was very surreal.
Now, these two DC liberals, because all the white people in DC are liberals, okay? 100% of them, okay? It's more black liberals in DC than white liberals. It's more black conservatives in DC than white conservatives. Like, DC is a very, very liberal place. Most of the white people are not homegrown. They're transplants. They come here for jobs. White House staffers, congressional staffers, Senate staffers, different CEOs, different startups, different businesses. DC is a great place if you have an education. And most of these people have education. This is not the frizzy hair white girl in Walmart with her gut hanging out from under her shirt. Talking about, you know what I'm saying? These are the cream of the white crop. This isn't your average white person. The average white person in America has zero privilege over black people. They're just regular people struggling and striving to get by. Don't have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out half the time. But these ones that come to DC are the elites, okay? If you go up the road to Baltimore, the white people are much different. They're homegrown. They're from there. They've been there for generations. They grew up in the city. They grew up in the area. They're from there. They're working class. They're poor. They're not even middle class. Come to DC, they're all middle to upper class, all of them. And these people have been acting like the Capitol riot is the worst thing since 9/11. And it's kind of refreshing seeing them all shook up when they see real violence. Because that unarmed riot at the Capitol, where no one had a gun, no shots were fired, no officer was beaten, Officer Sicknick, it was proven later that he was not beaten with a fire hydrant. The media covered it. The print media covered, but the mainstream media didn't cover it. They just stopped calling it a deadly riot. That's all they did. Since that news about the officer, that he wasn't beaten to death with a fire extinguisher, you notice that the language has changed? No longer a deadly riot. It's just an insurgency. They can't call it a deadly riot because the only person that got killed was killed by a police officer. That was the only bullet that was fired. And all of that. And these people in DC, I promise you, they've been acting like that was 9/11. And they've been ignoring all the crime that goes on in the black community. And they've been talking about defund the police. And it's pretty interesting to see them when they see actual violence, which goes on all the time in the black communities in their city. Now it's starting to creep into their neighborhoods. It is so interesting to see that there's no talk about racist cops and the police need to get away. KKK cops. Wrap them in a blanket and fry them like bacon. No racist, none of that crap. These people are happy as hell the cops are around. And they're happy as hell they don't live in a black community. And they don't have to put up with this crap all the time. They just get little tidbits of it.
We saw people running either direction, and it was probably time to get out of there. We saw everyone rush into Mexico and followed right after them. And then, we saw a guy come in with a gunshot wound, and we knew immediately that this was real and it wasn't just firecrackers at that point.
Talk to me about when this man came in and he had been shot.
I think I'm still kind of in shock from everything. I think I saw him across the street. He was standing on the corner, he was caught in the middle of it. And I think I saw the post reaction. He had blood on his shirt. It was very surreal. People started tending to him, and then we just got pushed out to the back of the restaurant.
That young woman lives nearby. She says she's never come this close to gun violence. And she mentioned the fact that, excuse me, we're going to let this car come through here. Take a look over here. Less than a month ago, over on this block, a man was shot and killed as he was leaving dinner. Killed by a stray bullet. And tonight I asked the mayor and the police chief, what do they say to people who do not feel safe here? This was the chief's response when I asked him, what do you say to those who could never imagine bringing their family here after this?
Got to make sure that we're doing everything we can as an entire system here in the District of Columbia to hold offenders accountable when these things happen in our community. This is unacceptable. That's the bottom line. It is totally unacceptable behavior. Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department, and unfortunately I'm out here under this circumstance, but I think it's important that we all stand out here collectively, that we're all here together for a number of different reasons. Excuse me, let me take these off, the lens is transition. But what happened out here last night, and I was out here last night, some of you live here, some of you may have just been out here having dinner or whatever, but that was unacceptable. It's unacceptable in any community. The reality is, we have situations that happen like this in our city, all across our city, and it's been happening for a long time. Last year, we had over 922 people shot in our city. Last year. 198 people murdered in our city last year.
A slight correction, Chief, and this is not to get on you, Chief. You had 198 people killed in your city last year. 190 of them were black. The other 8 were a mix between Hispanics and blacks and Asians and Arabs and all different groups. Just wanted to fix that for you, Chief.
Here we had over 922 people shot in our city last year. 198 people murdered in our city last year. This should be shocking to the conscience of every person in our city. I don't care where you live. It's got the attention that it's got now because it's happened where it happened. Because we had an incident at the National Stadium.
You hear that? It's getting the type of attention it's getting now from these white liberals who spent the better part of a year and a half talking about defund the police. We don't need police, reimagining police, emptying the prisons. Because a man, and I'm not going to even go there with Floyd. I just call him a man because I don't have to talk about his character, his past. A man died in police custody in Minneapolis. These white people are getting hit with stray bullets in their neighborhoods every week now because a man died in Minneapolis. And I'm going to get to why. He's going to get to why. It's a direct result of all this criminal justice reform, police reform, defund the police crap that these white liberals have been shoving down everybody's throats for the last year and a half. Listen.
I don't care where you live. It's got the attention that it's got now because it's happened where it happened. Because we had an incident at the National Stadium. But this issue that's crossing our city, there are too many guns in our city in Washington, D.C. Last night, before that shooting happened, our officers assigned here in the 3rd District, they recovered a firearm off an individual down here at 11th and S in Vermont. Right before that, a firearm right up here, 14th and Irving Street. After the sounds of gunshots, right up there. When this shooting happened, officers within 5 seconds of the shooting where it happened. That's unacceptable. It speaks to the brazenness of the criminals that are in these communities that we're dealing with. Some of them are our neighbors, some are. And we have to really figure out what do we want to do as a city in terms of how we respond to this. We can take the political route and talk, all of this fluffy stuff. But I'm going to give it to you straight, where the issues are. And where the issues are, the ecosystem, the justice system that we have right now, it is not functioning the way that it should. The courts are not open. That is a fact. Barely open. So cases from last year, from 2020 that happened during COVID, of violent criminals that have not been disposed of, what do you think those individuals are? Anybody want to take a guess? They're in community. They're in community, and their cases have not been disposed of. We have to look at, are the things happening that needs to happen when we do place individuals under arrest? The guy for carrying the gun there, the guy for carrying the gun there. What happens with that case when it goes through the system? What's the outcome? What is the expected outcome? What does the community expect when a person gets caught with a firearm? What do we expect? Do we expect to see them in a neighborhood in 3 weeks? And if we do, are we saying that that's acceptable?
Okay, Chief. I can answer that for you. If the shooting happens in a black neighborhood and you catch the suspect, we don't care if he's out in 3 weeks. But it happens in one of these pasty white liberal enclaves, one of these gentrified neighborhoods, one of these up and coming neighborhoods. Then lock them up and throw away the key.
And the police officers, I guarantee you, when we lock up whoever did this, they will be no stranger to us. I promise you that. So I want us to make sure that we are reclaiming this community. What do we expect? Do we expect to see arrest? The guy for carrying the gun there, the guy for carrying the gun there. What happens with that case when it goes through the system? What's the outcome? What is the expected outcome? What does the community expect when a person gets caught with a firearm? What do we expect? Do we expect to see them in a neighborhood in 3 weeks? And if we do, are we saying that that's acceptable? Because most of the communities that I've talked to have no clue what happens with these cases. They don't. But I'm going to tell you the truth. The real issue is we have a vicious cycle of bad actors who do things, no accountability, and they end up back in community. And the police officers, and I guarantee you, when we lock up whoever did this, they will be no stranger to us. I promise you that. So I want us to make sure that we are reclaiming this community. And my hope is that as we do this, that this reverberates through our city, that this is what the response should look like. It should look like this, right? Because there are a lot of corners that I go to after a murder has occurred, and it's just me. It's just the officers. Who are the people that are closest to the pain, right?
He's speaking about black neighborhoods when, like, in this white neighborhood, it's 100 people out there because the police officers hold the press conference. Because these white people are terrified. They're getting struck down with stray bullets, left and right. In black communities, I will give black people a little bit of a break from this. As I mentioned, like 190 of the 198 people who were killed last year were black in this city, which is 45% black and 45% white. So, black communities, and this is, as he said, it's been going on for so long. It's going on for 40, 50 years. So, black communities are kind of like, they're not going to, like, every time there's a shooting, it's not going to be 100 people out there in rapt attention, like eyes locked, hanging on every word that the police chief is saying. Because this happens every day, all day. Okay? It's their sons, it's their baby daddies, it's their uncles doing it. It's not white people killing these white people. It's black people doing this. So you have a lot of different factors why you won't have the same, like, just like, oh, there's a shooting, but the chief is out there. Oh, we going down there to talk to him and see what he got to say. And also you have the whole not snitching thing. Like, black community, you go out there with a chief and it's like people looking like, man, you snitching, you hot. Why was you down there? Told you, what would you ask them, please, what you was telling them for information? Like, white people don't worry about that. Like, they talk. They'll point you out in front of the cop. Officer, it was him. Like, they'll point you out in front of the cop. They not going to just use the tip line. They'll be like, it was him, that guy right there. So, I give black communities a little credit because he not throwing shade, but he's alluding to black communities when he said that.
Right? That's when we get folks' attention, right? When you're closest to the pain, when you hear the gunshots in your community, that begs a different reaction versus it being someplace else and you just kind of happen to catch it on the news. This was real for some people. But it's been happening in communities all across our city. And I'm saying to you, enough is enough. I've been a police officer in this city for over 30 years. I've been born and raised right here in this city. Started my patrol career right here in this district. And the way that we're going and the things that we're trying to do, we want to help people. Yes, we should. But you cannot coddle violent criminals. You cannot. You cannot treat violent criminals who are out here making communities unsafe for you, for your loved ones, for me, for my loved ones. They might not want a job. They might not. They might not need services. What they may require is to be off of our streets because they're making it unsafe for us.
That was hysterical. Because these white people think they can save the world. These white liberals think they can save everybody. Jobs and services. Listen, man. They don't want jobs. Okay? Every time I go to Walmart or Target or the supermarket and I see some little boy, young dude in the lot, they call them lot techs now, but they push the carts, they go retrieve the carts from the parking lot after the customers used them and push them all back to the front of the store so that when the customers are coming to the store, they can get a new shopping cart. Those guys that go out and retrieve them, they're called lot techs. Do you know that they make between $12 and $15 an hour to do that? Whenever I see one of them boys, I be like, feel like going up to him and be like, son, you winning. Your little homies is on the block with a bunch of coke and heroin in their drawers or in the crack of their behind. Yes, that's where they keep it, in the crack of their behind. Or under their lip right here. They keep it in a bag under their lip. Now, it's in a plastic bag, but it's still either here or there. So that if the police come and search them, because the police come and search them. When the police catch them, they search them. A lot of times they make them pull their pants down. And a lot of cops that are hip, yeah, they go even further. So they go all in the mouth. They go all down there looking for it. But most cops will just pat you down and go in your... So they keep it there to where, in those places, orifices. And then it's like you selling a dime rock, you might get $6, $7 from a junkie. If you lucky, 8 maybe. You get 10, you win. You won. They out there all day, and there's other crews of guys that got beef with coming through shooting at them. As I talked about the police, the vice squads, the narcotics division, the and yeah, they get locked up and they get right back out, and yeah, they living the fast life, and yeah, they got some fresh tennis shoes and fresh outfit on. They ain't got no real money. And ain't no amount of jobs and services and programs gonna take them out of that life. They love that life. That's the life for them. They love the freedom. They love the social standing, the social currency they get, the status. Because they're really, big top of bad men in their community. They're respected. But it's a rough life, man, and you better off being a lot tech, or bagging groceries at the supermarket, or flipping burgers at McDonald's for $15 an hour. You're going to make more money than them, and you're going to have less stress than them, and you have a brighter future because you're going to have 100 arrests on your record.
But you cannot coddle violent criminals. You cannot. You cannot treat violent criminals who are out here making communities unsafe for you, for your loved ones, for me, for my loved ones. They might not want a job. They might not. They might not need services. What they may require is to be off of our streets because they're making it unsafe for us. And if that's what it requires, then that's what it requires. And we have to own that. We have to own it, because if not, we see more of this. We see more of this in our communities. And then what happens? When someone's shot, people are outraged by it. I'm outraged every time. Of those 922, a lot of those 198 that died of that, I stood over many of those.
Imagine standing over 100 dead bodies a year. And all of them being little son people, young son people with their whole lives ahead of them. And you got a bunch of white people protesting all throughout the town, talking about defund the police and criminal justice reform and crooked cops. Bunch of white people. And then the second the crime spreads in their neighborhood, we need more police. We need more patrols. They'll even. I've been to some of these neighborhood meetings. They call them ANC, Advisory Neighborhood Commission meetings. These white people will make the city turn up the brightness on the street lights, because they'll be like, at night the streets are, our street is too dark, and that promotes having drugs, corners, and illegal activities on if the street is really dark. So they'll make the city turn the light bright as it can be, to where it looks like it's daytime. You gotta close your blinds and your drapes at night to get some sleep, because it's like it's daytime at nighttime in these gentrified neighborhoods. Because it is true, though, that, when the streets are darker and, you have more activity, illegal activities, criminals and pimps and prostitutes and drug dealers and addicts don't want to be on the street where it looks like it's noon at midnight, you know what I'm saying? Because the street lights are so bright. But yeah, imagine being a cop like that, seeing all these dead black bodies and getting harassed, and white people yelling in your face and calling you all types of names at these protests. And the second it starts affecting them, they're like, all right, scrap that. 24-hour patrols, vice squads back, lock all these sun men up, throw away the key. Wow.
when someone shot, you know, people are outraged by it. I'm outraged every time. Of those 922, a lot of those 198 that died of that, I stood over many of those. Many of them. Watching families suffer when they don't have to. Because we're putting violent criminals or allowing them to be back out in community. That's unacceptable. So what do we do about it? We have honest conversations with the people, the leadership, be it the police chief, be it council members, be it courts, be it whoever. It's easy. The police department, we're an easy target. You can easily focus on the police department, about what the police department did, didn't do. That's easy. I'm challenging you to look at the entire system. The laws that are in place for people who carry guns in our community, who do things to people in community, violent acts, are those things acceptable? Are they acceptable? And if whatever you say is acceptable, it's my responsibility to enforce that. That's my job, to respond to those things that the community say, this is what the standard is. If some people knew what the standard is, what the outcome is on the other end of some of these cases, it would blow your mind. Why is it that a guy who murdered somebody is out in community after having been arrested 2 or 3 months prior with a firearm? What do we think he was going to do? The recidivism rate for violent offenders is the highest that we've seen anywhere. 87%, I think, in that area for people who carry guns. They use them. I'm mad as hell about this, and I hope y'all are too. I really do. Because I like coming to 14th Street. I like going to Chicken and Whiskey and getting my chicken out of there and my plantain and everything, my rice, my crab rice. I love that. And I don't want to be afraid for my wife to go there because some knucklehead in community decided to pull out a gun and fire it at 8:20 in the evening. That is unacceptable. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Do we go back to our regular spaces and, back to saying, okay, yeah, we made plenty of legislation and reform efforts for the police. Look at the entire system, folks. That's all I'm asking you to do. Look at the system. How are we holding people accountable? What does that accountability look like, and is it okay with you?